Oh, it didn't pop up. Hi, welcome to episode 14 of 5D Tea Time. I'm your co-host, Lindsay Love, and this is
Krystal, Kristen.
Kristen.
La, 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 Lindsay.
So we had a beautiful, enlightening, and deep conversation prior to the pressing record on this video. And we were talking about passion and this feeling within in regards to life purpose or what drives us. What do we come to this planet to do? Why are we here? And of course, that looks vastly unique to all of us, vastly different, sorry, for all of us, unique to each of us. And we call it the call. So Kristen, can you define what the call is and just talk a little bit more about it?
Defining the call. For me, if I were to define the call in my life, there's a very poignant moment where life humbled me to my knees, and it was a very life despairing and heart opening moment where I felt my heart was in direct communication with the source of light and the stars that I was communicating with that night. And I was just like, please show me the way. I know there's a reason I'm here. Don't know what that is yet, but I can feel it like a light in my soul, just like the light in those stars. There's a relationship, there's a connection with that light. And show me the way. Show me the way. I was talking to the light to show me the way. And to me, that was a contract with God, with Source, with the light, with love to guide my way through this life. So for me, the call is to the light, to be in service of love in this body, on this earth now. And to me, the call is the highest purpose, the highest reason that I am here, that I feel that we're all here. And so I heard it loud and clear, like the ringing of a bell inside of me. That communication line was open, a direct communication line with like Source. It's like my heart, not my senses, just like, boom, show me the way. I will deal with the fear. I will deal with like the constraints of this body. Just show me the way, show me the doors to walk through, and I will walk through them. So to me, it's like, yeah, the call is this, the relationship of my soul with the light. And yeah, that's it to me right now. How would you define it, Linz?
Passion, courage, facing fears. I think for me, it's a feeling. And absolutely everything you said, I completely align with. I even have a tattoo on my back that's like my motto, my mantra statement: spread your love wherever you go. So that's my mission. I feel like that's the call for me in this lifetime, is to really embody and embrace love and to spread it wherever I go, to whomever I can. And does that mean that I'm perfect or I'm great at it? Nope, not necessarily, but I'm always coming back to that mission. Do I know exactly how that looks or day to day what that's going to look like? Absolutely not. But there's a feeling that's connected with it. There's a feeling of, I don't have any, like I have to do this, like this is a priority. So anything that is kind of in alignment with the call, no matter how much fear comes up around it, because oftentimes there can be a lot of fear that confronts me when being asked to do something or step up to the next level or step into the new thing or learn something new or confront something. It's like there's a choice, of course, but there really isn't a choice within me. Like there's a drive, like I know without a doubt that's the thing that I have to do next. I've gotten the call, I've gotten the signs to confirm it, I've gotten the feelings behind it kind of pushing me slowly forward, moving me forward. And so there really isn't a choice as far as I'm concerned, no matter how much fear is there. It's like a deep inner knowing that that's next. That's what I have to do next. That's the next step. And that makes facing any fear that's associated with it maybe a little bit easier, because I can almost try to step outside of myself and not make it about me, because my fear is purely about me, the fear that's going on inside my head. But when I make it about something more, something greater, something bigger, and I step outside of myself and it's no longer about me, it's about the call to do, to live out my purpose of what I came to this earth to do. The fear becomes easier to confront. The fear becomes easier to move through. So yeah, I don't know if I explained that very well, but the call is definitely, it's deep within me, and it came up in childhood. And then there's some specific moments that really confirmed it. And I remember one was reading the Celestine prophecy, or the Celestine prophecy. That was life changing and life altering for me. That was a very confirming moment, confirmational moment of how I saw the world, and the importance of energy and love and so on and so forth. So yeah, there are definitely some specific moments throughout my younger years that I can remember that really, it's almost like it came in like a download. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like an inner knowing that I have no idea where it came from. I was never taught this kind of thing or how to view the world in this way. It just came in as an inner knowing, and I felt it so deeply within, and I knew it so clearly. I knew it more than I knew anything else in this life. It's like, this is the purpose. This is why I'm here. So yeah, I don't know.
Love that. No,
It's an interesting conversation.
it sounds so empowering. The feeling I get sounds so like there's this deep source of strength and power that comes when connected with the kind of, it's like, because the call is a bit, I mean, gosh, maybe someday it'll get so clear and so specific what it is. Yet in a sense, it's kind of abstractions, spread your love wherever you go. And for me, it's really, I'm like, in the past few years, there's been a lot of social changes and a lot of things that I was identified with, relationships that I was connected with a lot, just like kind of a lot of the old world has just been shedding and falling away, like just being shed from us. And it's a very kind of up and down process. It's kind of like you go through one layer of shedding, and it's intense to go through all of that letting go, all of that kind of coming into oneself and doing this inner alchemy, and then kind of elevating that vibration to a higher level because you've shed certain levels of your being. But in that process of like so much shedding, which I'm still in, I'm very much in another shedding moment right now. is like, what is the hill I'm willing to die on? Like, what, what is this? Like, am I, because these threats to our identity when relationships leave us, or when certain beliefs that we thought was the way the world was start to disappear. It's like collapse, all these like systems and timelines almost collapsing. It's like, oh my gosh, can feel a little bit, just I think last week you said something like naked and raw, just kind of like identityless, as we're shedding these layers of the ego. And as we shed more of those layers, it's like we connect more to like the bedrock of our soul. So in this process of this like rapid change that we're in, I mean, it really feels like since 2012, but we had a big acceleration point in 2020, mid to, that Saturn Pluto conjunction.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right? That like early January 2020.
Yeah. 2020. Yeah. 2020, early January. Yeah. Right around New Year's, I think,
Yeah.
like, or the 11th or something. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere in there.
I remember. Yeah. I can still see the meditation that came in that day. Really strong. But I kind of lost my train of thought, but like in this shedding process, it connects us to that like bedrock of the soul, kind of like what happened to me when I was 17. It was like that humility, that just like releasing layers of the density of the ego, bringing us into that space of just being so humbled to that most true way, like the truth. And without all the shedding, how do we get to that bedrock of the truth? But in that, I was just like, what is the hill I'm willing to die on, And I just love, the abstraction of spreading your love wherever you go. It's like, yeah, just to really fulfill this life by being that, being the love, being the way, being the light. And I just realized it's like, oh, the hill I'm willing to die on is supporting sacred space where people can find that direct access to the eternal truth. And that is freedom. It's like, I'm willing to die on the hill of freedom, soul freedom, soul and spiritual freedom.
Sorry. Yes.
Like that is the hill. And all the BS that's like, that is in the way that I'm shedding too. I mean, just like layers upon layers upon layers of muck and gunk and junk that is not, not to defame or to say it's bad, it's not, because it serves us, like we said, like stepping stones to like support us. But at a certain level, those things can only support us to a certain vibration. And then once we hit that vibration, then that has to fall. So we can go to the next vibration, and then that has to fall. And it's just a process of that. So it's just like constant kind of alignment and then shedding, and then alignment and shedding. So it's an ongoing journey. But yes, the hill is the hill I'm willing to die on is supporting the eternal freedom of the soul, and to break the chains of slavery that have kept us shrouded from feeling that with all of our passion and all of our just might, all of our life force. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I've been asleep for so long, I do not want to go to sleep. I want to wake up more and more and more. Like, I want to be an alive, awake, empowered soul that's just not going to let fear stop this call to being love in this realm, like powerfully, fully. I didn't
Yeah.
say that for myself.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. Woo, it's so good. So I just want to chime in with like the illusion that we are living in and how it distracts, sorry, from the true calling of living love and being love. And this, of course, comes with like the shedding, you know, these layers upon layers upon layers of stuff that has accumulated in our bodies and in our physical auras and in our fields and throughout maybe lifetimes, potentially lifetimes, you know, but even within this lifetime. And it's like, so it's all distracting. Like there's just this illusion that it's kind of like it's just deterring us or distracting us from that which we're ultimately trying to reach. And that is like living love, living in the light, being in the light. And through the illusion, we begin to experience enslavement ultimately, and that enslavement keeps us on this wheel of distraction. And so it becomes harder and harder and harder to be love, to live in love, because we're so exhausted and distracted and confused on so many different levels that it keeps us away from what ultimately, I mean, is you and I's true calling, and probably most living on this planet, is to live in love. And
Yes.
so it's really interesting how we almost have to go through that experience of contrast to kind of come back to this idea. And maybe we oscillate in and out of it as well, of, you know, the moments where we're kind of contracting and like uh, love is not really at the forefront of our mind. It's more like stress and worry and fear and all of that. But then that, by carrying that awareness and that inner knowing of like, I'm here, that I have the call within me, the call to love, the call to live in love. It's like that awareness helps us to shift and transform and oscillate in and out of things. But by showing us the contrast of, you know, I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to live in distraction. I don't want to live in a world of illusion. I want to, yeah, be in the light, be in love, living in love. But it's almost like those are the stepping stones, like you said, of like having these experiences and then shedding, and these experiences and shedding, and constantly coming back to love, I think is what I'm trying to say, like constantly coming back to it, because we're not perfect beings and we're not living. It's challenging in this reality to live in love continuously and constantly.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we're perfect beings living in a very imperfect world. And I would even say that and I'm just going to go for it. We're inside of a prison matrix.
Mm,
This is um we're caught in a web here of illusion, and
mhm,
the only way to dispel the illusion is through love. So it's a very interesting, like the only way through is love. And then we return to love, and love becomes more amplified. It's not one thing. It's a very dynamic, energetic framework that only multiplies. Like true love multiplies, does not divide.
mm,
Like love does not divide. So all of this divide and conquer and us versus them, Republican, Democrat, left, right, all these divisive topics, that is not love. That is furthering putting you into the crevices of divide and conquer, which is not only a colonial thing. Colonialism adapted or adopted it from old. It's an old way of keeping us separate and distracted and dysfunctional, so we're not uniting and unifying with this power of the strength of our souls, and
mm,
the unification that happens when we really are living from that power of unifying love. If like like you said, it's just, there's so many distractions. It's just distraction upon distraction upon distraction upon distraction. Like it is proliferating distractions. And
Yeah.
uh, it's really something, I think, for us to become very, very keenly aware of and highly attuned um, to simplify and to not participate as much as possible in anything that's divisive.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, and it's very tricky because it's very much, as you said, landed in our beliefs and the biology inside of the belief. So it's hardwired into our endocrine systems and our DNA. Like there is a lot of unpacking that must be done to like continue to navigate into the light of the inner truth and that alignment with the call to really be beacons of love. It's like, gosh, how did like Martin Luther King and like, I mean, Gandhi and
Mm.
even some of these like yogis, Paramahansa Yogananda. I mean, the amounts of, yeah, it's just so courageous, like the amount of bravery and courage that these beings face to like stand for. And when you stand for like the power of love, it's almost like you are, in a sense, like you're breaking the matrix, like you're the hack, like you're like breaking the code. And yeah, you know, we're shown in the past the cost is the life. You know, so it's like, yeah, there's fear in there to really be that, to really listen to the call and live it, because yes, you know, the life can be put on the line. And I do find that there is actually a fear inside of me that does keep me in hiding, because I'm like, wow, if I really were to be me, like I might be burned at the stake or put on the cross or, you know, it's like in the consciousness, like there's like it's fear programming to like really be like that unifying power of like love in this world. Oh, well, you get shot. You know, you get, there's there's you know, sure death, you know, so it's like, oh, I'm gonna keep myself safe and not be that. And I think that there's gazillions, not gazillions, there's not a gazillion humans, but there's millions of us on the planet who are feel this inside of us, feel so passionately about the world and like the way we see that it can be and like what we know that it is inside of our hearts. And but we're like in a malaise. I've been in a malaise, almost an apathy that's kept me in hiding because of, well, my own process of self-healing, but also fear. Definitely
Mhm.
fear, you know, of this death, you know? And I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure, there's been a lot of ego death, you know. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a process of awakening is a process of a lot of shedding. So it is a lot of death to tap into the eternal source of life. It's just very interesting, this life. This life, like having a body on this planet, is in this time of rapid ascension and awakening, is like so profound. Like it is so profound. And I
Wait.
feel more just inspired to answer the call more now than ever. It's like the more that's shed, the more it just feels so life feels more purposeful. The more I shed, the more like it just feels like every thought I have, every word and action I take is so impactful. Like everything has like such significant
Mm.
impacts. And that's so just like everything feels like it's more purposeful the more that's shed, I guess. And that feels like, wow, just more enlivening, more vitality comes into the system, more strength, more vitality, more clarity. So I am
Yeah.
ranting today. I feel like I have like a lot to get out today.
No, it's good. Keep
Personal
going.
process
Love
level.
that. No, the only thing that's kind of coming up for me is like to generate awareness around it, and to use this modern society that we're living in, these dynamics, to really see it clearly. Because how can we, if we're living in an illusion, how can we adapt the call? How can we adapt living in love if we can't see beyond the illusion, if we can't see what we're living in, right? So I just encourage everyone to take a moment to assess what's happening in our world, how they're dividing races against people, sexes, genders, pronouns, political parties, whatever it is. It's all a state of division that's being created. And when that divide comes about, what is meant behind it, the manipulation behind it, is to generate fear. What is the opposite of love? The opposite of love is fear. So they've won, whoever they are, whatever. But the matrix, living in this matrix, if we're living in the fear of the divide, we're so far from love. We're not so far from love. We can access love at any time. But if we can't see it clearly, then we're living in that fear state. And that's the opposite of love. That's the opposite of why we're truly here.
Mm-hmm.
So feel into it. Take a moment to feel into it. What is actually being created here? The divide that you can feel. How does it feel within you? Have you gotten into a conversation with someone recently where emotions and triggers have been activated around a certain topic? Let's just use a political topic, right? Any political topic, where emotions and fears have been activated, where it's literally ripped people apart, relationships apart. That is just succumbing to the fear. That is allowing the fear to overtake us. Can we grow beyond that? Can we bring awareness to the fact of that is what is actually happening, and it is a form of manipulation, psychological manipulation.
People don't even realize that they're a part of whenever they're, so it takes like one person in the conversation of two to have the awareness that, oh, this person is just unaware of the manipulative forces that have them so entrenched in that belief that, like, yeah, they're willing to sacrifice the connection relationship because of the belief that's separating.
Yeah. So if there is enough awareness in this situation, I encourage you to say, rather than what would Jesus do, because what would Jesus do is great too. You can also use that. But what would love do? What would love do in that situation? And is it worth the trigger? And is it worth the escalated emotions? Is it worth the outpouring of energy towards more fear? Is it really worth that? Or we pick and choose our battles, of course, or coming back to love, what would love do in this situation? Seeing beyond the matrix, seeing beyond the mind, the psychological manipulation that has been occurring for centuries, and really coming back to love.
And this is the thing, because we even earlier, before we hit play, it is a thing with boundaries again, with our last episode 13, 12, or whatever
13.
the last one, 13 on boundaries.
Yeah. I posted a thumbnail that was 12, but it was actually 13.
Yeah.
So confusing.
Our episode on boundaries is really, because this earlier in our debrief before hitting play, we were talking about, I was like, oh, and I was kind of going into the intensity of the just all the hooks to get us, I was like, I'm not entertained by entertainment. There's nothing that I really want that like culture's offering. Very little. There are some things I like, oh, that's cute, that's pleasant, I'm enjoying that interaction with a movie or whatever. But generally speaking, so I started going into that I was going to go into the toxicity of the very thing that I didn't want to give energy to. And in that moment, I was like, nope,
Hmm.
what is, and then I went into the feeling of like, what is my soul really being called to do rather than what is it disgusted by, which would actually feed into the very energetic and create more energy and feed that system that is multiplying the yuckoness um and and giving it my adrenalized state, giving it my hormones, giving it my precious energy.
Yeah.
Instead of going there, I set a boundary in that moment. No, I'm not even going to complete that sentence. I'm going to go into the energy of what is the call? What does love want to do? And so it reframed even the pathway of my own sentence. And it totally shifted the energy from going like down into the descent of
Exactly.
hell, basically, just yuckoness,
Yes.
into, a more of like a higher chakra, like higher enlightened pathway for the conversation to be um, more soul expressive.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it just relates to boundaries too, in this, like in conversations with other people. What would love do? How does love want to communicate through us? um Even with our best friends, that we could just be like, oh, I gotta get it out. It's like, well, do we really just want to get it out, or do we, like, how do we want to direct ourselves and conduct ourselves, and what are we feeding, who are we serving, and how are we serving? Are we going to serve the the yuckoness, or are we going to serve really the call,
Hmm.
the soul to love? And
Hmm.
it's like, it's in this, like, that's the activity of creation. And yeah, so thank you for leading us on that path, Linz.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of this. And the thing that I want to come back to is, like I said before, we kind of oscillate in and out. And the more awareness that we have, the more we can bring love into every single moment. We can ask, what would love do in every single moment? But um, if we slip, if we fall into fear, if we fall into deception, if we fall into psychological manipulation, whatever, it's easy to fall back into these things. It's easy to fall into these
Yeah.
patterns. It's what we've known most of our existence. But to beat ourselves up for things like that and to get caught in those lower vibrations, or those into the downward spiral, to get caught there is really where the detriment occurs, I think.
Mhm.
It's one thing to slip and fall down and get back up and try it again, and it's another thing to slip and fall down and stay down and then live in guilt and shame for staying down.
Right. Right.
So I think even if we slip, even if we fall, the longer, the quicker the return time back to what would love do, or, let's move back up here rather than into the yucco and staying down in the yucco. I think um, that is the power of love. That's the power of connection. And that's really being aligned with the call.
Yes. Move your body, don't like get stuck. Sometimes it just is paralysis,
Mhm.
just like, oh, moving our bodies, keeping the pathways of circulation open, getting out into nature. So many cues we shared from a previous episode. Just so you know, my power is about to shut down,
Okay.
my computer battery.
We're,
So
I
gosh,
feel complete. So you just say anything you need to finish up with, and I'm good to go.
so just so grateful for this like positive processing portal. um I mean, I think, oh gosh, let's just create more positive processing relationships and positive processing outlets, nature, body movement, yoga, friendship, just nourishing practices to support us when we are in a contraction and we've slipped and fallen. It's like, okay, how to breathe, and yeah, just let evolution just like move through us and process us and rise again.
Yeah, and I'll finish up with this. Actually, I do have one more thing. Because I've been thinking about this all day, and it's funny that it's coming full circle. But don't forget the power of fun
Mm.
and being in a childlike nature or experience when shit gets hard, because I know shit gets hard sometimes. It gets really hard, and it feels dark and deep and hard to swim out of it, right? But just taking yourself out of that environment, going, if you love the water, go to the water. If you love roller coaster rides, go to the theme park. If you love the library, go read a book. Whatever that looks like, but taking yourself out of whatever it is. I mean, even when it involves sickness and death and things that are so heavy and serious, or things that are generating a lot of fear, try to infuse any kind of fun that you can, to really, yeah, just know that, things will shift and transform and change ultimately, and to infuse a little bit of fun brings back a bit of joy and lightens the load and brings you back to love.
FUN.
FUN.
I love that. Such a good way to close the session on answering the call. Find the fun.
Answer the call. What would love do? Find the fun.
Yeah. Find the fun and loving, very, very loving ways. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very loving ways. Oh, okay.
Thank
Love
you
you.
all.
Thank you all so much. Love you.
Love.
Bye.
Okay.